Hi folks, so this is my organic wine, red wine, that I usually have some before I go to sleep at night. It just takes the edge off, just a swig from the bottle, which I'm going to do now. And I suppose why am I doing it is because, it's important to, it's a kind of like if you have your glass of wine or a beer or a whiskey, we can charge our glasses in um, in celebrating to this time that we are in, this divine sacred time that we are in of transformation. And it's obviously very easy to get stuck into the narrative of fear and doom and gloom. And it's easy to get sucked into that space, and I often am. And so I just think again we need to have our rituals, ceremonies in a way, or something or other, whereby we get in touch with the sanctity and somewhat of the celebration of the time that we are in, which sounds completely contradictory and not the way that we're really feeling, and because of what's going on in the world today. But I think it's important to try and be high spirited, because it's just, geez, man, depressing out there. It's despairing out there. It's hopeless out there. It's like, you know, people, wow, the fear, I just can't believe it. They are in such panic, in such hysteria, they're in such trauma. And it's very alarming to see and observe. So I charge my bottle to this occasion, and you may do the same if you have something. It's really nasty stuff. Just maybe one more swig, eh? Yeah. Uh, Anyways, you're supposed to finish it like in 2 days after opening and keep it in the fridge, but I just don't have the patience for that. But anyway, 13%. Can't get alcohol now, so this is my last bottle. So I'm in a bit in trouble. Yeah, the ban on alcohol, the ban on alcohol. So, you know, just having a conversation the other day with somebody and trying to explain the synchronicity that's been going on for me. I've mentioned it before, and I don't want to sort of bore you with it, but because it's quite long-winded. But it's just basically the story of the complex that I live in. Outside my house, there's street lights within the complex. Okay, it's not sort of municipality lights; it's part of the complex. And since I've moved here 2 months ago, I've had a very poor relationship with the light outside my house. It's very bright. It shines into my window at night. I can't sleep. When I sit on the balcony and try to meditate, it's just blaring. I have to put like a towel over the railing so it blocks it out, whatever it is. And so the one day I was going for a run, the first run that I was doing during the lockdown, and I was looking at the light outside my house, right? And there's lights out of everybody's house, and as I was looking at it, it switched off. All of them switched off. As I was looking at it, as I was feeling disgruntled about it, as I was like feeling so frustrated about things in the world, just feeling so helpless, so disempowered, boom, the light switched off. Uh, 4 days later, the body corporate messages or everybody in the complex saying, okay, there's an electrician coming to fix the lights. He manages to fix the lights, but only in one half of the complex, right? Not where my road is. And so I'm grateful. Oh, great. Wow. Fantastic. Okay. Uh, few days later, I get another message. The electrician's coming back to sort out all the lights in the complex, so not to worry. So I think, oh, well, there we go. Anyway, he sorts out all the lights in the complex. The lights switch on, except for the one outside my house. A few days later, some of the lights in the complex go off again. We bring in the electrician. He's going to fix all the lights now. Okay? Fixed all the lights apparently. The one outside my house, still not working. The only light in the whole complex that is still not working to this very day, folks. And every time I see that, it's just a symbol of empowerment to me. And in a way, was that a synchronicity from the universe? Was it also just my contentment with the light that actually just switched it off? So there's a bit of both here. We don't necessarily know, but we are more powerful than uh, we are comfortable with believing in, folks. So that's just something to have in mind. Also, that we're working with this type of magic and synchronicity here, and supernatural in a way, and the metaphysics of it. And so I was explaining this to somebody the other day, a sort of family friend or a friend or a family member. I can't even remember. And they were just sort of so haphazard about it. They were just felt it just to be so woo woo and like, oh, coincidental, like nothing about it. And so, I just realized, and they were interested. Okay, they saw I was very passionate about it. I really wanted to talk about it, really wanted to express myself and what it meant to me. But they could see, and they leveled with me a little bit and said, okay, explain it to me. And I was just realized I can't explain what synchronicity is to you because it's a holistic approach and idea to life. Okay, it's an understanding to a certain degree. It's a feeling, it's an experience that you live by every day, with life being a mystery, mystical in nature. Okay, and whatever it is. And so I can't take that out of context of all of my understanding of life and being and experience and things like that, in my relationship with the mystery and with the metaphysics and with my, whatever it is, and just my findings and etc. I can't do that. I can't minimize it down. I can't take it out of context in order for you to understand, because you won't understand. And this is what I kind of wanted to get into a little bit as well, folks. So I did this meditation online. There was a meditation for people here in Durban, about 20 people, and on Zoom. And I was eager to join and looking forward to what it came from it. And the meditation was good. It was about 40 minutes long, and then there was sort of a question and answer, to the meditator, to the teacher. And I asked my question, and I felt so misjudged. I felt so misunderstood in what I was asking. I was told for the first time that I'm too rational. Now, I've never been accused of that. I've been accused of being more emotional. She says I'm not emotional, but she doesn't know anything about me, She says, what does she know about me? She was just looking at the fact that I wear glasses and whatever it is, and maybe I was looking a bit sort of, I don't know, in thinking, in contemplation mode or whatever it is, and that's what she took from me. And it wasn't just her reaction to me or what she was saying to me, but to the other people in the group. I mean, she was saying, so, like, let's say, Wendy, how was your experience? She says, well, it was just so peaceful, and I just felt so like this, the blue light. When you mentioned the blue light coming into me, I felt like I had popped into another dimension almost. Like, I don't know, I couldn't feel my body anymore. I just felt that there was a lot more space, and I don't know, but it was just so far out. Like, you could say, but you could see she was just making it up. And the teacher was saying, yes, I could see that on you, because, we all have cameras and you can see everybody online. And I could see that during the meditation, that there was a transformation that happened for you. And it seemed like your energy shifted into something, or you transitioned into another type of energy space. And it was just all this talk. And some people were saying, just their time ceased to exist. And it was just this moment of the now, and it was just so spacious, and and I could just see that it was just a thumb suck. People just, because I also felt it when I was speaking to the woman. I also felt like I was just basically saying that there's a lot of ricocheting going in my head. There's a lot of thoughts happening. It's a lot of echo chamber of just the energy of the situation of the lockdown and what's going on in the world today. And I'm very stuck in. I haven't had much change of my environment. I've been locked down, and so it was nice to meditate, to just have a refreshing thought. And but I also found myself saying certain things. Like, I also felt a shift, and I don't know where it came from, but I felt a little bit ashamed of myself afterwards. But I suppose I just, that's what was going on, and that's what the teacher was saying, and that's what was, happening. And and I went along with it, I suppose, just knowing what I was getting into. But anyway, so anyways, I'm saying that it was just so disingenuous, just so inauthentic, just so upsetting, right, and frustrating. And just how I think the other people were also just going along with it, and we're nodding to what the teacher was saying. And I mean, the teacher was saying as well, the meditator, she was saying that like this has been a very intense meditation, so you might see things coming up for you within the next hour, the next couple of days, whatever it is that needs to transition from you. So maybe dormant energies that now that you've activated, that you need to process, that is going to come up. So you might feel moments of sadness or grief or something like that, but just know that it's from the meditation, that we went really deep, that we uncovered really some negative dark forces and also some very positive lights and things like that. So, there was a very great shift that was happening. And again, this massive over exaggeration, huge assumption. And I was just looking and just watching it, and I felt, wow, I don't connect with what you're saying at all. I don't find it to be authentic or genuine at all. I just find that you're trying to be, a teacher that's trying to sell, that you don't know what you're talking about type of thing, and you're just trying to sell people on that and whatever it is. And I just felt a really a distance and a disconnect. And I also challenged her when she said to me, well, you seem like you're very intellectual and too rational. You need to start coming more from the heart space, and that's what I'm just picking up from you. I hope you're not being offended. And I mean, I don't know if this is right. And I said to her, it's not right. I said, I don't think so. I do think that, it was, I can't remember exactly. It was over a week ago this was happening. But I remember I challenged her, and then she started becoming so vague in what she was saying. And I just felt, well, I can't actually talk with you. I can't correspond with you on this. I can't dialogue with you. It's not, I can see. We're just not going to see eye to eye. The only way that is to just agree with what you're saying, because that's all that this is about. It's just to agree that your opinion and your insight is correct. I mean, the one woman was saying that when she was meditating, she felt like sort of a pain that just eased up in her right shoulder. And then the meditator said, yes, that's the masculine energy that hasn't been incorporated yet properly into the auric field or something like that. And she was saying, yes, exactly. And she says, and then the meditator teacher was saying, well, how's the pain now? She says, no, the pain's gone. It's like, it's really, it's wonderful. I've got the movement back. And I thought to myself, really, folks, like really. So I suppose, felt just more a little bit alone in my own truth and realizing where other people hold, which is fine. But again, I would say, like I wrote down the word here, the serial, like a serial killer in a way, somebody who's serial. I don't know what the word serial means, but the serial individual, in a sense, or the serious individual, the hardcore individual, okay, is on a lonely journey. There's no question about it. It's a lonely journey. And so we must just appreciate that, right? That the more serious the individual, the more seriousness, the more committed, the more genuine the individual, or the authenticity, okay, the more hardcore, right? The more isolated you're going to feel, the more on your own you're going to be. And it's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it's an absolute blessing to be such an individual, such a huge contrast between other people, even in the truth community, even in the awakened or the enlightened or the new age folk. It's like, it's huge. But at the same time, it's also, you're very much on your own, okay? It's a very authentic path. It's very, very unique, extremely unique. And you're not going to be in agreement or resonance with a lot of people who supposedly are on this journey. There's a huge difference here, folks. And I think some of you folks in my channel are those kind of people, where you've left a lot of the sort of, Willy Wonka, or just sort of the irrational, or just the inauthentic, right? Truths behind, and I'll get into some of them, not truths, or the inauthenticity, the play, the distraction of so-called awakening folks behind. Like, you've just, you've said, that's not for me, I can't do that. And, so you're an extremist, you're an extreme individual, and, it's very hard to relate to many that I've spoken about this before in the past, where I've gone to, Zen temples and Buddhist monasteries and psychedelic parties, and I have felt like I just don't connect with any of these people. Like, we've got very little in common, if anything at all in common. Anyway, so just going further, it's like, for myself, there's a whole lot of London Real. I don't know what the guy's name is from London Real. He's, I don't know what his name is, but, he's like, and he's the truth community, the truth movement, and he's interviewing David Icke and, brilliant minds and things like that. And I don't watch his channel. I can't watch his stuff, you know. I can't listen to, I'm sorry, David Icke. I can't follow Alex Jones. I mean, it's just, okay, Alex Jones is quite far out, but there's so many of the people in the truth community, in the truth movement, right, that for myself, I don't relate to their message at all. I don't find it actually deals with the inner experience of the individual and what's really going on internally and what this adventure is about, what this life is about. I think that the truth community is massively based on either it's like the law of attraction, it's manifestation, it's uh, it's a conspiracy theory, what's going on in the world and what's coming and what's going to attack you and what's going to whatever it is, which is all has its place, but it's completely in disproportionate to the message of going within, of really what's happening with inside, what's happening from the metaphysical point of views, what is at stake here, right? What's going on here, and what is the war on the soul, I would say, that's really taking place, which very few people actually talk about. I mean, they'll talk about, you know, but okay, so for myself, even in the truth community, I've never felt sort of a kingship with it or connection with. I haven't felt that. I haven't felt places where I've gone and there's a guru, and I've disagreed with the guru, and if I ask a question that doesn't seem to be in agreement with the guru's perspective or teachings, then I also at the same time the other students or people have just sort of come on, man, like it's not appropriate what you're asking, and save your questions. I felt challenged, right? I felt like, again, it's just another cult. And so this is what we're talking about, is that even truth community is just cult members, right, in a sense. And so it looks like, these guys like London Real and so many others. It's just not worth even talking about. But dime a dozen, folks, dime a dozen of people out there that seem to be fighting the good cause and waking people up. But it's not about that. And I mean, and if that's okay, but it's an agenda behind it. I mean, these Out of the Shadow, for example, this documentary, where did it come out of? It just came out of nowhere, and it's got like over, I think, maybe 8 million views or something like that. It's like there's a whole lot of um, of sort of truth that's coming to the surface now, and I also think that's about because because there's this awakening going on, and because the Agent Smiths, or whoever you want to call it, the architect of the Matrix, know that this awakening is happening. What they're also doing is throwing people down the rabbit hole, right? Which is really for another talk, I suppose. But again, the thing is that for people to expose them to too much of the truth or too much of the darkness or the evil in the world at such a rapid rate, when they haven't developed a sense of self, right, as a foundation, a sense of connectedness to divinity, a connectedness to truth and meaning, their own truth and meaning, and they haven't yet healed their own wounds, and they're still very disassociated, whatever it is. They don't have some kind of inner balance, and then they're taking on a whole lot of this truth, such as, I'm not even going to get into the words, but whatever it is, and all the deep conspiracies, and when they awaken to it, it's so-called, they're just being thrown down the rabbit hole. They don't know what to do with it. They're in such fear. It's like, yes, my world is falling apart. I don't know what's going on. And they're just being hit by the so-called truth. The truth is being used, the truth is being used as a weapon, right? Now, people aren't aware of that, but it's being used as a weapon. Okay, why all of a sudden are all of these, again, there's just so many channels, and I'm not going to name names necessarily, but I mean, they're the majority of people on YouTube, okay? And there are very good folks as well, but it's become mainstream. The truth movement, truth media has become mainstream in a way. And so again, for an extreme individual, you just go the other way. You're just not even interested in all the hype and whatever it is. But so we just need to appreciate that, and let's not think for a moment that people are seriously waking up. Okay, that they're seeing the evil cabal, they're seeing that the CV story is not maybe what it appears to be, and then they're questioning things, which is true, and there is small pockets of people, but I don't think they're going to go much further than that. All they're going to do is delve further into conspiracy, further into the priesthood or something like that, or what goes on in the movies and with agendas and whatever it is. And that's but they won't go within. This is that you don't find these documentaries talking about the problems that are the conflicts that are lying within yourself. And that's what I wrote over here, is that we're oversaturated with the world's problems, right? And all the stresses of the world and all that's going on, more so than we are concerned of our inner problems, of our inner conflict, of the inner turmoil, of the inner war that is going on within, the inner disconnect, the inauthenticity that we have within. We are not being directed within, we are being directed towards the world, to the external, and then also the way that we've shown that what the external is about is not from a metaphysical approach, but mostly from a war scenario, okay? And so we've got to be aware of this and appreciate this, which I'm sure most of you are, right? So coming back, so for that's it. It's like, it's the amount of videos that are out there that of the truth people. It's just, but yeah, it's just there's just too much of it, and one really needs to stay away from it. And to a certain degree, observe it and see the tactics of what it's doing, all right? But it's not really benefiting people. It's coming in the sense of being truthful and exposing and disclosing whatever it is, but it's not. Right, again, a lot of it is just throwing people down the rabbit hole, and you can't handle it it's like somebody, sparked your tea with mushrooms, with psychedelic mushrooms or something like that, or they put psychedelic mushrooms on your pizza, after it came out the oven, and 5 grams, and it's like, and you just chow this pizza, and like all of a sudden, I didn't expect this to come on, and it's the same thing. That's also, truth is psychedelic. And again, so if you can put people into that fear, into that uncertainty, and then you can control the narrative. You can say, well, it's a war, it's against your consciousness. Well, what is my consciousness? What is my spirit? What is my soul? Okay? This talk is going in a completely different direction than I intended. So I mentioned that over here. Okay, so this could be even for another talk, I suppose. Let me think about that. Okay, let's just get into it now. So we need to appreciate, okay, we really need to appreciate, take seriously how much growth you have done, okay, and where you stand in contrast to others, okay? You need to appreciate that and bless that, okay? How much suffering you've endured, how far you've traveled, how much pain, how much courage, conviction, commitment, sacrifice, right? It has taken to get you to who you are today and where you are today, or just the person that you've got to appreciate that, because you can be sure that other people aren't appreciating that, okay? And it's very, very important to know that and celebrate that and find strength in that, okay? Yes, this road of truth, of self-actualization, of self-authenticity, of connecting with your soul, with divinity, and bringing out your potential, it's not popular, and you're not getting awards for it. You're not getting a higher salary, a paycheck for it. You're not getting any noddy badges from people, whatever it is. You're not getting any accolades or something like that. It's not. And so therefore you might feel that, well, it's my own personal journey, but it's just who I am. It's just fringe. It's just, it's nothing sacred. It's nothing divine. It's something really important. It's not very significant. It doesn't really count in the world. And, even this is another point that I wanted to make, is that even the people in your life don't appreciate how far you have come. They can't, because you stand on such a high frequency and in such an evolved high being that they can't understand what that is. They don't understand. They have a relationship to what it is that you have accomplished, how far you have traveled. They don't know, because they haven't really put in the effort in their own lives to even know what the distance is like, to know what the road is like, what the hardships are like, right? What the meaning, what the richness, what the fears are about. They don't know these things. So it's like they can't appreciate how far you've come. It's almost like, let's say you're a doctor, a PhD, a neurosurgeon, and then you come to like a tribe, an uncontacted tribe in Africa, and you tell them, well, I'm a neurosurgeon. And they'll be like, okay, great. Let's just say, and they have no understanding. Maybe you've been a neurosurgeon for 30 years and you've done operations and you've saved people's lives and whatever it is, but you tell them something. Okay, I mean, bad example, but you know what I mean. It's like saying to a child, 11-year-old child, this is what I've accomplished in my life and this is how far. Now, the child can't comprehend, can't appreciate what that distance, what that sacrifice on a day-to-day level, what that has meant, the efforts that you've put in, right? What you've had to deal with, whatever has gone into it, the skill, the art, the patience, the presence to become, let's say, a world-class neurosurgeon or something like that. They cannot appreciate, only unless when they start to do it themselves and they spend their first hour in university or the first week or the first year, and then they understand, well, I still have to do this for 7 years, and to understand what's involved here, right? Okay, maybe it's not a good example. Like a shaman, you might say to somebody in your family about, you went on an ayahuasca experience with a shaman who's been a shaman for 30 years. And they might say, they only think about it from a superficial, oh, he's one of these guys with feathers in his hair or something like that beats on a drum, ay, 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 no, 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 ay, 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 no, whatever it is. And he just gives you some random plants that he finds, whatever it is. They light a fire, you take something, you become intoxicated, and that's it. And then he takes your money, puts it in the pocket, and he tells you he's done some healing or something like that. And it's like, no, 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 no. Shaman, he's gone into the underworld. You don't even know where to begin to even start talking. Like, how do I even engage with you in this? How do I explain this to you? It's just impossible for you to understand the depth of what the shaman has done, the healing that's been involved, the interdimensional travel and outer-dimensional travel, what the shaman is. And you cannot fathom for one moment what this truly means. And so that's it for ourselves, folks. That's where we're coming from, as travelers of the mystery, let's just say, of the underworlds, okay? Of the healing process, of, the dark nights of the soul, authenticity, to stand by your truth no matter what, right? To believe in yourself, to believe that you're a divine being, to live that you're a divine being, okay? To understand your intelligence, right? Your intelligence, your emotions, your sensitivities, your empathy, your higher vibrational energy, your interpretation of the world, your imagination, whatever it might be, your kind-heartedness, your soul that is brighter than 1,000 suns, for crying out loud. And so we don't get that. We don't get that that feedback. We don't get that, and so it's easy to feel that you're standing alone, and you do stand alone, and that's the truth, is that you do stand alone within your journey, within your achievements, within who you are. You do, or on a metaphysical, spiritual being, you stand on your own. You might have one or two people that can appreciate the depth of the level that you are on, but it's not many, and they're probably most likely going to be online, okay, as well. So you really got to appreciate that, because it makes up for the loneliness, it makes up for the despairingness, it makes up for the distance that you feel that you have between others in your life, okay. So at the same time, another point that I've written is how many people you've had to say goodbye to, all right, and how many have remained behind. You've got to think about that. How many have we had to say goodbye to because we've realized that the distance now that you have traveled, okay, is so far from where they still are on the shore, and you've, gone out far into the ocean, and they're just a mere speck, on the shore. You can barely even see them. I mean, even with smoke signals, you'll barely be able to make out what that is, and the distance between you is so vast, that also you've delved into the ocean, you've gone into the underworld, you've seen different aquatic life and, different species that they've never seen before. You've gone on journeys, and so you can't relate to it anymore. Words such as, for example, love, for you has such a richness and a depth and so much color and so much promise and so much, so much depth, let's just say. And for them, it's like, well, I love you, and it's like on a superficial. So, words, you get so frustrated because the words that you're using, you're realizing that it's not touching them in their spirit or their soul. It's not the depth of where you would like for them to reach into. You want to share this magic with them, or the depth and the richness, and they cannot understand or appreciate what you're saying at all. And so there's a massive communication, distance between you. And so you've got to appreciate that really, and understand that. So you've had to say goodbye to many. We've had to say goodbye to many. And from time to time, we do reach out to them. We do sort of, because we still love them, we still care for them, but we also get so disappointed in them. Because again, you're coming from a much different perspective, much more holistic perspective, a lot more of a grounded perspective, a mature perspective, an evolved perspective, okay? And they've been very, very, very childlike, and it's very hard to see, to witness how childlike they are. Like, especially what's going on in the world today. I just feel so frustrated with people, how they've allowed themselves to buy into the fear to the degree that they have. I'm so, like, I feel so anxious around them because they're so anxious themselves and they're so traumatized. And it's like, well, why did you let this happen? Why did you let this happen? And there's nothing that they feel, it's just how they are. So it's upsetting to see. It's hard to see how people don't believe in themselves and don't value themselves. It's very, very hard to see that, right? And so again, it makes you feel more alone in that way, and sometimes a bit hopeless, the situation, in a sense. So yeah, I've mentioned that, how much distance you've traveled. Like, as well, and I'll end off on this, but like, you see the tragic in the magic, in a sense, sometimes when you can. Like, and other people don't know what you're talking about, when you say, well, there's chaos, there's death, there's rebirth, and they say, no, there's just death, right? They don't see things holistically. They don't see things like how in nature, how there is autumn and there's winter and there's spring and then there's summer. They don't see cycles. They don't see the metaphysics of the world. They just see chaos. They just see disorder. They just see death, and there's no rebirth. The other day I was speaking to somebody and they asked me, do I believe that there's life after death? And I was saying, well, absolutely, my man. And they're like quite startled. They were like, well, you seem very convinced by that. Like, you seem very serious about that. You have no doubt about it. And I was like, why do you? And they said, I don't know what to believe. I don't actually like to think about it. And I was like, well, how do you live life without this potential of this idea? Like, so what do you believe? Or like, what do you follow? I mean, this wasn't exactly the dialogue. I was like, well, I just don't think about it. But why haven't you thought about it? It's so important. It's so important. I mean, if you've thought about it and you say, well, there's nothing after this, or I don't know, or there is something, I mean, make up your mind, have something at least, or you just hope, or something like that. And just, well, it's like, when I go to sleep at night, I'm not sure in the dream where I'm going to land up in, and I'm indifferent about it, which is fine when you dream at night. But how can you be indifferent about death? How can you not be serious about it, or like contemplate about it? And maybe his answer will be, well, no one knows. And so that's not true. People do know. People have had near-death experiences, okay? And yes, everybody's different, but if you read, if you do the research, and if you feel in yourself and intuitively you feel, and you meditate on it, and you take some psychedelics, and you experience, and you whatever it is, you might just get an inkling, you might just get an idea of what it's about. It's like, well, what do you think life's about? What do you think, when I tell people life's based on love, it's ultimately encompassed in love, and for your own fulfillment, for your own accomplishment, for your own potential, for your own actualization, right? And they look at me like, they don't understand what I'm saying. Anyway, so like, again, with this near-death experience, and I mean, talking about life after death, and saying, well, you haven't really thought about this, but you need to. Every human being, I mean, that's where you're going. And it's to say that we have no idea is not necessarily true. So you're telling me, like, we don't think about things, we don't try and analyze, we don't try and discover, we don't try and work out or something or other. You don't think there's clues along the way? Folks, there are clues along the way. There are breadcrumbs wherever you go in life. You can add a few dots to join a few pieces of the puzzle together. You won't get the whole picture, of course not, but you'll get enough to have something to live by, to follow by, to feel by, to experience by. So again, like, I think to myself, well, you've been living how many of your years? Let's just say the person's 50 years old. 50 years old without an intention that there's anything beyond the grave. Then, I don't know, folks, that's what I'm saying, is that to be a hardcore individual, to live by the fire of the Spirit, you have to have a holistic notion or mapping of life. You need to, okay? It has to be holistic from birth to death, to existence, to, you need the bigger picture. Otherwise, you're just mucking about a lot of the time, or you're just playing it very, very small. Right? Oh, well, I'm just going to be a good person, which is great, but you don't even know what that's about. Like, why are you having to be a good person? Well, because I feel it to be the case. But why do you feel it to be the case? Connect with your intuition, connect with your conscience, connect with that part of you that is beyond the physical, beyond what science has to show for itself. Get in touch with that, So yeah, it startles me that people live their whole lives and just thinking as well, well, there's nothing more than this, and that's that. I just don't quite understand it. So again, got to appreciate for ourselves our holistic approach and holistic model that we have of life and our perspective on it, okay, and our relationship to it. So again, folks, very, very important time that we are in, and allow and feel that in yourself. I mean, I'm being a bit hypocritical here because most of the time I don't, but allow that to dwell inside the spirit, right? And within the imagination, that we live in a very sacred, sanctimonial, I think that's the word, time, right, of great transformation that's taking place. And that's the vibration, bad word to use, whatever, the energy that, not bad, but maybe not appropriate, that we need to be aligned with, okay? And not with the other sort of very, very, which I'm going to get into another talk on about, soul hijacking that's going on, right? Or stealing that's going on, in a sense. And that's where you've got to live by your truth and your conviction of what you know is to be true, of what you know who you are and what you are about, right? Beyond what other people may just see you as an identity, may see you as just another Joe, may, a citizen. This is how much money you have. This is your identity. This is your where you holding in the family, that you're the younger brother or the older sister, or you're the stepmother, or whatever. Beyond all of the character, right? That you heartedly know that when you wake up in the morning, that you're a spiritual being in this body, right? Having this human experience, which will not last very long in the big scheme of things, and to understand that you are of the light and you are divine, okay? And to know that you stand in your truth, and that is timeless. The truth is not mendable or breakable or changeable in a certain. It's not. All right, folks. Again, this talk went in a very different direction than I had in mind, but I think something came from it at least. All right, we'll chat soon. Take care.